Here we go on day 2, and on day 2 I'm going to brainstorm a little bit. I'm going to finish up my proposal, and I'm going to begin thinking about the organization for the essay. I have my phone turned off. Everybody is to go away, and I have an hour and a half scheduled for this. Of course, this tutorial won't be that long. I'll be putting it on pause while I go and do things and come back to you, but I want to show you my process. Again, you'll have your own process, but this is my essay, my process. I brought up the poster, and I'm not using that, of course, as my title image, but the poster has some information. An aquarium exposition. I'm going to want to find out about those people and all this other information. So before I get into this, I want to walk you through a couple of my processes. Take them and leave them as you will, but I'm just going to cover those with you real quick. This is what I call a learning curve. Now, a learning curve can be very steep and it can be very low. All right, so let's say that I'm going to write an essay about babysitting. Okay, I know about babysitting, so it's not going to be that steep of a curve for me to go from this to the actual babysitting event, right? In that particular essay, I wouldn't be looking about something like this. So what I know would be way up here. I know a lot about babysitting. I still need to know some information about babysitting today and how it might be different. That's only going to be a couple of 3 things and then to the event. So that is going to be a very easy learning curve. I already know what I know. It's way up here. I just need to get information here to here, and then I can go ahead and move on to the event. So that's not tough, is it? Okay, let's say that I am going to make a wedding dress from scratch. Okay, and this is going to be, instead of the event, this will be actually the dress that I make. Okay, and that learning curve is going to be a little bit steeper, right? Wedding dresses are pretty complicated. There's lots of different structural items and fabrics and that kind of thing. But I've already made a wedding dress before, so I already know a lot about making a wedding dress. Let's say that a person who is an Air Force pilot is going to make a wedding dress, and he doesn't even know how to turn on a sewing machine or how to do anything else. But as a pilot, he certainly does know a bit about instructions and things. So it's not that that person doesn't know anything. It's just that they have some understanding about how to follow directions. But that learning curve is going to be fairly steep for that person. It's got a long way to go till that dress is made for our Air Force pilot, right? So that's a little bit of a more steep learning curve. Now let's get on and not waste any more time on this. We're going to go to this event. Okay, so let me fix this a minute. I start with, what do I know about planning a concert event? The answer is absolutely nothing. I wouldn't know where to even start, but I can learn, and I can learn pretty quickly. So this is where I'm starting, and this is the event. Now, in our particular situation, there was a tipping point. At some point, which I will find throughout researching this essay, this event went from the rumor of a big concert that was going to take place and the actual event. And this is what we're going to be finding. So if I look at it this way, it doesn't make me so concerned or overwhelmed. Because normally when I sit down to write an essay, my first initial feeling about it is to feel overwhelmed. So I have to deal with myself with that. And first I look at it just like this. Doesn't seem so hard. I'm not, if it would be a steeper curve if I was going to try to write a PhD dissertation on all this, but I'm not. I'm writing a paper that's going to be around 2,500 words or so about how this event hit the tipping point, what happened after, and whatever conclusions we draw from that. So this is my little brainstorming page, and what I do is I open up a Word document and I just create a bunch of boxes, and because I don't have any knowledge to start with. I don't know how anything happens. I don't know how anything. So I write myself notes in boxes, and eventually these boxes will become part of the framework for the outline. So these are the guys who promoted it, so I'm going to have to find out that. So I'm going to put this on pause, but I'm going to take this mismatch of boxes and I'm going to kind of put them into order a little bit. Okay, so my brainstorming is that I just write things in boxes and then I see if I can organize the boxes. This document's going to go away after a bit, but this is a way I just get all the anxiety out of my brain because I don't know anything and I'm learning. So I just write down in boxes what I need to know, and that kind of helps me focus things. Because as you know, at the end of the day yesterday, let me remind you, I added an outcome. First, we're going to prove how it happened and have a theory about that. Then this word came up. I don't even know where, but a successful situation is not a cataclysmic event. So I'm still thinking about that in the back of my head while I'm looking through these things. Now, I'm just about ready with this proposal. Now, your other instructors will have different ways that they want you to do a proposal. For me, I want you to have ideas about where you're going, and I want that proposal turned in at the beginning of the project, knowing that it's going to weave and sway and go all kinds of different directions, but I want that to be something that you work on. And we still don't have a thesis statement, so we can't end this without a thesis statement. So this is our proposed outcome that I've kind of been thinking about as I looked on that. Okay, so after I create the boxes with some basic information, now it's time for me to go to the internet to just kind of get an initial feel for things. As you can see, I opened up quite a few different articles and things, and as soon as I opened them, I've already put them into EasyBib, so that means that my bibliography section is already going to be completed. So this was 10 things you might not know about Woodstock, and this comes from my favorite, history.com. There's a lot of good information in here. I don't know what I'll ever do with it, but it's really interesting because I have to find out. I have no idea how I don't even know how you would do this. So first thing I did is look at this. What was the original plan? So I've answered one of the questions that was in my box on that brainstorm page. And this tells me some information about what they initially planned to do. And this is information I'll go back to about Yasgur's farm. I did not know any of this, obviously, because I don't know anything. But the festival was initially, the Bethel, New York people enacted a law or whatever that they couldn't have it, and then Yasgur gave them the farm. So there's a bit of salesmanship going on there. And this is about Richie Havens. And then this is kind of under the against all odds side of my theory. And my theory is this thing succeeded, or of course I've got to prove what I mean by success, right? And that's going to take me some while because the odds are against success. When you look at the way that farm looked, when you look at how much money they lost, blah, blah. Anyway, and then when the rain came, and then we have this problem, this situation on Saturday night of the festival. I knew the Jimi Hendrix thing was a problem. He was the last performer. And as you can see, by the time he performed, a good amount of the crowd had left. And I knew that there was something about that. And that's interesting. So, you know, when you watch the movie Woodstock, it looks like everybody was just right there waiting in the wings. And the answer to the question, how the heck did they get in there, which was by rented helicopters and so forth. And so people were arriving in different groups and different times. And Hendrix had in his contract that no act would perform after him. So he ended up performing at 9 a.m. on Monday when festival goers had gone. That's interesting. And again, does that make it successful? He should have been playing to a full house. You know, these are all kinds of information things that I need because my opposition is going to say this was a failure. All right, so now this is the film situation. Remember, they were making a movie, Woodstock, and they were shooting all kinds of footage. So, but the thing is that Warner Brothers retained all the rights to the movie, and so Wadley and Scorsese didn't receive a whole lot of money. So that happened. And I did not know that Joni Mitchell had written the song Woodstock. It's interesting. This is some of the statistics that will be used probably for the opposition. And there we go. That's just information from that site. So what I'll do is I'll copy all that, I'll paste it into my notes, and then if I want to come back to it and find something from it, it's real easy for me to find it. So this is all I do. I'll be right back. See that? It makes it so easy when I'm coming back to it so I don't have to remember where it is that I found stuff because I already have it labeled and in this notes folder. This really comes in handy to me. And of course, you know me, I color code everything. And these are the guys that produced everything. I've saved this in my images. It's not the best image of them, so I'll work on that. But look at these, how young they are. Good grief. Anyway, so that's already saved, so I'm done with that. And this is just a little tidbit about the guys. I'll have to, it's not really that much information, but because I opened it, because I looked at it, I need to add it to EasyBib. And this is a whole web page full of pictures of those promoters so that we can learn more about them as we go. So that'll be interesting. I have that marked. But not, I mean, if you try to cite this, it's not going to find anything. And it's a page of images. I don't need to cite that. I need to cite the images that I actually use. Now, I took the name of those promoters and I have looked to see what's there. Oh, that's maybe. This is good. This is a 9-minute. That's a good interview with him. Maybe I can find him and call him from that. Let's go ahead and open that. And I'm going to copy that URL. I'm going to go over here to EasyBib.
And my secretary said that there's a kid out here with long hair. She says his name is Michael Lang. I said, does he have an appointment? She said, no. I said, well, ask him if he can come back tomorrow. And then she got back on the phone. He said, tell you.
Now we can see that lots of these came up. And I'll be researching those in detail later. And I'll have a day dedicated to really checking out these resources and seeing what they actually said that I can use in my essay. But for now, I have cited this interview, this 10-minute interview. And so that's done. Remember, we started with the poster today. And the poster showed something about aquarium exposition. So I've got that article. I'll be reading that later. I've got it cited in EasyBib, and I'll be coming back to this later on to see what all I can use from this. What's this? Oh, the tipping point. This is important this is something that I do know. And I do know that when something is planned and is ultra successful, okay, I've got to prove that it's success. I know. But there are some steps that are taken to that status. A trend becomes a snowball depending on the type of people sharing it, the stickiness of the product, the overall context. The people spreading a trend are well connected, love helping others, and are good at selling. The overall context or historical period must help the trend spread. And of course, we talked about that yesterday with the Vietnam War and all the other things that were going on. And this is a great summary of that book. And he says the 3 rules, and again, an epidemic isn't always a disaster. In this case, it became an epidemic because so many people attended and so forth. So, let me just get this moved over. When I find things like this, it really helps me when I consider my organization. So, for something to hit that tipping point and become epic, or whatever you want to call it, there's the law of the few, the stickiness factor, and the power of context. And those are all reviewed here. I'll be coming back to look at those. And that, I believe, is going to be some of my framework for my theory, because Woodstock hits each of these 3 components, and I will be organizing it. I love it when something does a bullet point or a 1, 2, 3. It really is helpful. So this is an excellent article, and I'll be reading up on that later, but I have it for now. And I think I'm going to add these 3. I'm going to add these 3 things to my proposal. Yeah, so some of that initial organization idea is going to be put in the proposal. Just, I don't know if it'll change, but it's there for now. Okay, so this has all been saved. It's all ready to go when I have time to go in here and look at this. And then one of the things I kind of wanted to do, sort of a frame of reference. Again, if I say against all odds, I need to have, a paragraph or 2 that prove that the odds of having something like this become a success are limited. And so I looked over here. Remember that fire festival thing from 2017 where all those people lost all that money and they pitched it as this really awesome event and it turned out to just be an absolute nightmare? Well, I'm not going to go too much into that fire festival thing, other than they pitched a good game and they took in lots and lots of money and they just ripped everybody off. Right? So that's going to be something that I'm going to use as sort of my little proof that I'm adding this to EasyBib if you wonder what I'm doing, to just see if that's going to be something that I can use as a counterpoint. These guys that were so young and inexperienced planned this festival, and it mushroomed into something they never possibly thought could happen. And then this is an example of one that, one that was a complete disaster. That, of course, is my little poster. Now, I may use this in the essay only to show in my How Did the Word Get Out, only to show this connection. Of course, I'm going to have to check all this stuff, and we wouldn't have found out about this Aquarian exposition if we hadn't had the poster. So that's, of course, already been done in the marketing. There's lots of this kind of stuff. And then I needed to find out about this farm in the, in this situation. It's a very good story about Max Fiasker and his farm. So that's been added. Let me make sure it's added. Okay, we're all done. We just have a couple things left to do. Add the bibliography and write the thesis statement. Okay, so here are all of the citations from yesterday and from today. Now, as we know, we need to be able to show research methods. So let's look at our list. And, of course, we have the all fabulous internet article. We have a YouTube documentary. Well, we'll have the documentary, but we have a YouTube interview. And we have a news report. That's a different method. We have a book. This is the book, but we just looked at the summary. I'm not going to call that a method yet. And okay, so we have 3 methods so far. Articles, news, and YouTube interviews. So we have our required number, and of course we're going to click Export, and we're going to click Print as a Word doc, like we always do. Export, give it a minute, and it's going to show up right down here in this little tray, and we open that. Pause this. Oh, I'm sorry. I always hate it when time passes. You have to wait. Oh, there it is. Okay. Enable editing. Let's look this over. Looks good. Looks good. See how pretty it reads when there's nothing in all caps? You just can't have all caps, except in the URL. Sometimes they'll have all caps that you can't mess with that like this. But there's nothing screaming at the reader from there, all right? So we're going to take this, and of course we know that this goes on the bottom of the proposal. So we're going to copy that. We're going to zip over here to the proposal. And beautiful thing. Now I'm going to put this on pause while I come up with a thesis statement. Okay. All right. We're going to try this. Isn't that a great picture? I just found it a minute ago, so I just put down the... I really wouldn't put Pinterest in a thing, but I'm sure going to find the origin of that picture and use it later. Okay, here we go. Thesis statement. Now, there are always sentences leading up to the thesis statement. It's never like the first sentence. So, here we go. The phenomenal Woodstock Festival of 1969 was created to entertain 50,000 people. The estimated final count exceeded 1 million hippies of all ages who came from the far corners of the earth to witness this spectacle. Against all odds, the festival became an iconic symbol of peace, assembly, joyful music, and camaraderie. Woodstock was, in many ways, a grand and expensive catastrophe. Despite the rack and ruin of an upstate New York county, a study of the tipping point criteria of law of the few, stickiness factor, and the power of context presents an explanation of the unexpected cataclysmic success of the most influential cultural event of the 20th century. Done. You'll notice that in our thesis statement, which may change if we change the criteria, but, you know, we mention it. Oh, gosh. The thesis statements needs to be able to stand alone and make perfect sense, and I don't have one single Woodstock 1969 here. Let me fix it. I'll be right back. Okay, I added it there. Let's see. Despite the rack and ruin of an upstate New York county, a study of the tipping point criteria of law of the few, stickiness factor, and power of context presents an explanation of Woodstock, the unexpected cataclysmic success of the most influential cultural event of the 20th century. That is a long sentence, but I don't care. I'm done. Okay. There we go. Now we have this. Okay, the word count is 448. I found that because I looked down here at my nifty little thing that's... Shoot. Let me move this. Hold on. Down here at the bottom where it shows your words. Okay. So, it's 443 words. Okay, we have an initial image. That image, which I don't know, but that just doesn't show that we're at a concert. Neither does this. All right. Maybe we'll go with that, that one of of Jimi Hendrix at the end of the concert. That's kind of a interesting thing. Okay. Broad topic. Narrowed focus, and we've already interested. I'm going to be using the tipping point. to provide my context. And methods, proposed outcome. Yeah. Okay, working bibliography. Look. Nothing's repeated because some of this stuff I saved twice just to make sure. Okay, good. We're going to save it. Save it there. And we're going to save it as a PDF. And we are going to turn that puppy in. Now, that is going to complete today's research. That was a good time. I actually did that in just under an hour and a half. So that's awesome. Now I have my work cut out for me tomorrow. I feel much better. I feel like I've got a handle on this. And I feel like that brainstorming activity really helped me. I always check the PDF after it's done. Really helped me get through that brainstorm that always happens when I start any project. And I think, oh gosh, I just can't do this. I'm going to like that frame. I like to frame up pictures when I put them in essays. It's just me. This is me writing it, and that's my style. I don't like squared off inches. I think readers think sort of in a curve, and so I just like to do that, and that's just me. That's how I am. You do it the way you want to do it. Broad topic there, narrow focus. Good. We're going to check this works cited again. Make sure there's no gaps, right? Because since we did export as a Word doc, it's all going to come out beautifully formatted. Good. Okay. So that's a wrap for day 2. I feel like I've made some really good progress. I've already got the proposal done. We won't be pulling that back up again. It's all done and already been submitted. Now, tomorrow will be a fun day because we will, instead of having that proposal up, we'll have the outline up and begin using that 3-section format to research this essay. And the fun part about tomorrow is we'll begin by working on section 2, which is the definition section of the essay. We have to assume that the reader maybe heard the word Woodstock but wouldn't have a single clue what it was. So that's where we start with the definition of terms section, and that'll be fun. That way, see, I can research and build my outline all at the same time. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.